Let's open an image from our exercise files folder. Go to the main menu, File, and Open. I will go to my exercise files folder and select the file named Water. When our image opens up, we can see at the window bar that our image is not RGB or CMYK, it is a grayscale image. As we had mentioned in an earlier session, this means that each pixel in the image is represented by 1 byte and it can have the value between 0 and 255, that is, a value between black and white. Another thing we see is that the orientation in this image is off. To fix this, let's go to our main menu and under Image, we will find the option for Transform. By hovering over this option, we will get the choices for 90-degree clockwise rotation, 90-degree counterclockwise rotation, 180-degree rotation, and this is also where we will find the option to flip an image horizontally or vertically. For now, we just want our image to rotate by 90 degrees clockwise, so I will select that, and our image is now oriented properly. The image has a white border around it from when it was scanned in, so we want to get rid of that. Let's go to our toolbar and select the crop tool. It is the tool that resembles a cutting knife. With the crop tool selected, let's click and drag around our image to frame the area we want to keep and let go of the mouse. You should end up with a selection like this where everything outside of our selection is grayed out. That's the part of the image that we will be getting rid of as soon as we commit to our selection. Before we commit, we can adjust the cropping area by hovering over the edges of the selection and dragging in any direction until we're happy with what we will be keeping and what we will be getting rid of. Alternatively, you can click inside the selected area and move around the bounding box you have created. You can now either double-click on your crop area or just hit Return on your keyboard to execute your crop. Now, I made a pretty drastic crop here where I got rid of a lot of my image, so I want to actually go back to where I had rotated my image but before I cropped it. In GIMP, you can do multiple undos with Command Z on a Mac, whereas in Photoshop you can only undo one step. GIMP also offers a history window in addition to the multiple undos. The history window is located in this tabbed window marked with a curved arrow symbol. If you don't have a history window open in your interface, you can go to Window on the main menu and under Dockable Dialogues, select Undo History. I can click on the previous states of my work and decide how far back I want to go. Once I decide how far back I want to be, I can continue working, which will discard those unwanted steps I have undone in the history window. Now, I will go back to crop once more, but this time I don't want to get rid of as much of my image as I did before. I just want to remove that white border, which is an artifact of the scanning process. So I will pick up my crop tool and I will select the crop area. Then hit Return on the keyboard and we're done with this step of our process. Now let's see how we can navigate our image. The current view is not really very flexible for us. We need to be able to go into the image, as we will often need very high precision for changes we want to make. There are a few ways to do this. On the toolbar, there is a zoom tool. It looks like a magnifying glass. If you select this tool, you can select areas of your image to zoom into. With the zoom tool, you can simply click and let go as many times as you wish, or click and drag until you're satisfied with the zoom level. Once you have zoomed into your image, you could use the scroll bars of the canvas window to go up or down and left or right, but this is not very efficient. You can see the shortcuts for zooming in and out by going to the main menu and under View, Zoom. The options for zoom out and zoom in are listed next to each of these commands. You can see that to zoom out, you need to press minus, and to zoom in, you need to press the equal sign. On my Mac, pressing the equal sign doesn't execute the command to zoom in. I need to press Shift and plus sign. To zoom out, pressing the minus sign without Shift works. So test the zoom in and out shortcuts on your machine to establish that these shortcuts work as indicated here. Once you have zoomed in, you can press down the spacebar on your keyboard, which will convert your cursor to the hand tool. With your mouse and while still holding down the spacebar, you can click and drag around the image. This is particularly important because you don't want to have to switch tools if you're in the middle of a delicate manipulation. Another option you have for navigating around your image hides under Window on the main menu and under Dockable Dialogues and Navigation. This will bring up the navigation window, which shows you a thumbnail of your full image and a highlighted rectangle over it, indicating which part of your image is currently visible in the canvas window. With the slide bar below, you can zoom in and out of the image, and by clicking and dragging around the colored rectangle, you can navigate through different areas of the image which will appear on the canvas window. Regardless of zoom level, you can always press 1 on your keyboard to look at your image at a magnification of 100%, or Shift-Command-J to bring your image to fit into your window. Before we go any further, let's save our work. At this point, I will want to create a new copy of this file so I don't destroy the original image I opened. To create a new copy of your work, that is, to save it as a new file, you go to File and Save As. As we have discussed before, we want our in-progress work to be saved as a GIMP document. So I will make sure I have GIMP selected as the file format in this drop-down list. I will name my file water-revision1, and I will select the location where I want it saved. Next, we will look at how we can touch up our image by using some of GIMP's tools. You see that there are a lot of spots on our image because this was an old photograph with blemishes, which was then scanned into the computer. To quickly get rid of blemishes like this, you can go to the toolbox and select the healing tool. When I select it and go over my canvas, you can see that my cursor is represented by a small circle. This indicates the size of the area I will affect when I click down on the canvas. This tool, as many other tools we will encounter, has the nature of a brush, and it therefore has what is referred to as brush settings. This means I can adjust the size of the brush, the hardness of the brush, and other options along these lines. For now, let's go to our tool options to adjust the size of this brush. I will scroll the size slide bar, and by hovering my cursor over the canvas, you can see how the size has changed. For now, I will leave the default settings. If you have made changes to the settings in this panel and you wish to reset them to the default values, you can click on this arrow to reveal the panel options, select Tool Options menu, and reset Tool Options. The healing tool takes 2 steps to operate. First, you will target an area of your image you want to replicate, and then paint over an area of your image that you want to cover up. To target, we will press Command on the keyboard, which will convert our cursor to a crosshair. With Command held down, we will click in the neighboring area near the blemish we want to treat, and then after we let go of the Command key, we will use the healing tool like a brush to paint over the blemish. Let's do the same for a few other blemishes until we're satisfied with the results. To treat some smaller blemishes, like this one right here, I will adjust my brush size, this time by using the keyboard shortcut, left square bracket for smaller brush size and right square bracket for larger brush size. I will make my brush smaller and I will zoom into the image by pressing plus on the keyboard. But note that if your zooming doesn't work, make sure you click on the canvas window to make sure it is active. To navigate around the image, I will press spacebar on the keyboard and click and drag to the blemish I want to focus on. I think I will adjust my brush size a bit more, and now I can click over the blemish. That looks good. I can now zoom out of the image by pressing minus on the keyboard. Let's establish the good habit of saving our work by pressing Command S on our keyboard or by going to the main menu and select File, Save. Now let's look at the black and white levels in our image. We can see that it is an image with a lot of contrast, containing a lot of dark areas and fewer very bright areas. To examine the black and white information in an image, we can open the Levels window in GIMP by going to Colors on the main menu and then Levels. The Levels dialog box revolves around the histogram, which is a graphical representation of the distribution of pixels at various levels of gray in an image. 0 represents no color, that's black in grayscale, and 255 represents full color, white in grayscale. The in between 0 and 255 are various levels of gray. So a graph that is heavy on the left side of this distribution shows us that we have a lot of dark areas in the image, whereas if the graph is heavy on the right side of the distribution, indicates that we have a lot of light areas in our image. The histogram for the specific image shows us exactly that. We have very dark and very light values and not much pixel information in between, what we would visually see as gray in the image. Now the histogram comes with a slider and 3 handles, which we can grab and move. The left handle can adjust the dark areas of the image, the right one the light areas of the image, and the middle one adjusts the gray areas. To undo any changes within this dialog box, you can press the reset button, which will reset everything in this window to the original values. This time, instead of grabbing the handles on the slider, I can grab on one of these eyedrop tools. The rightmost eyedrop tool can be used to target a point in the image that should be set to pure white. By doing this, you can already see that the image improved a bit. Let's now grab the eyedrop tool for the pure black values. I can use it to target one of the darkest areas of the image, which should ideally be pure black. Now the image got even more contrast, which makes it look sharper. By establishing some pure black and some pure white in your photos, you will get them looking sharper and less dull. After establishing the black and whites in your image, you can still adjust the gray levels by using the middle handle on the histogram slider until you're satisfied with the results, at which point you can click OK. Before we go any further, you will have to take a brief quiz on the information we've covered so far. Now, let's look at our image again and zoom into the center. We see that there is a guy hiding behind the woman who's obviously not meant to be seen. Let's try to remove him from the photo. First, let's select his figure. There are multiple methods to select areas of your image in GIMP, and we will cover most of them in the following weeks. But for now, let's start with one of the more rudimentary selection methods, the lasso tool. Go to the toolbar and grab this tool that looks like a lasso. Now we can click and drag around the figure of the man to select him. As you can see, it is very difficult to make accurate selections with the lasso tool because it requires accurate freehand work. But for the purpose of this demo, it will be fine. Selections in GIMP will appear as marching ants. If you don't get a selection you are satisfied with, you can deselect by pressing Shift-Command-A on your keyboard or by going to the main menu and under Select, clicking on None. You will also see next to each operation under our menu, the corresponding shortcut is listed. You will want to memorize some of the most common ones you see so you can work more efficiently without having to move around your mouse too much. So once you deselect the selection you're not satisfied with, you can continue with the lasso tool and drag around the man and select him again. Now let's go to the toolbar and grab the clone tool. This tool takes 2 steps to operate, as did the healing tool. The clone tool functions similarly to the healing tool, but the clone tool performs a more faithful replication of the target area, whereas the healing tool is more aware of the area we're healing and it blends the two together. So let's use the clone tool. We will target by pressing Command on the keyboard and clicking near our selection, and then let go of the Command key and paint over our selection. Let's deselect by pressing Shift-Command-A, and we can see that the man is gone. Now this is not quite there yet, because with our selection and the brushing we did, there is a harsh line defining the area we manipulated. Let's continue using the clone tool, adjust the brush size if needed, and target pixels from the area near the harsh line, but not too close to it either, because we don't want the clone tool to start replicating the harsh line. After we target by pressing Command and clicking, let's start painting over the harsh line, and you should be able to start seeing it go away. You can zoom out by pressing 1 on the keyboard to see what the result looks like at the size your image will be seen at 100% magnification. And if you're happy with your progress so far, you can do another save to make sure you don't lose the work you've done. So Command S or File Save on the main menu. Now, aside from using the clone tool for fixing up an image, you may want to use it in more fun ways. You don't need to make a selection area before using the clone tool, like we did before in our effort to do a cleanup of our image. So you can pick up the clone tool from the toolbox, target the face of the woman by holding the command key down on the keyboard, and once you let go of the command key, go over to these flashes of white and paint over them the woman's face. I will do it once more, and there you go. Feel free to play around with the tools we've learned so far, with the exercise files or with your own images, so you can start getting comfortable with how these work.